Hello, welcome to your video on radicals and conjugates. By the end, you will be able to simplify radical expressions that involve adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. Vocabulary before we get started. Like radicals, have the same radicand. An example of this would be something like 3 square root of 5 and 7 square root of 5 because the radicand is the square root of 5. So that would be like radicals. Unlike radicals then have different radicands. An example of this would be like the 4 square root of 3 and negative 2 square root of 2 because the radicands are not the same. How do I simplify using adding and subtracting? This one's pretty straightforward. What you'll want to do is keep everything on the inside and everything on the outside. So when we have 6 square root of 11 plus 9 square root of 11, what you're going to do is actually just take your what's on the outside and add those together. So the operation doesn't change. So this will become 6 plus 9. And then you have, on the inside, then you have the square root of 11. Because these are like radicals, they just stay the same. Just kind of like if it was 6x plus 9x. The x wouldn't change at all, it would be x, so similar concept. And then 6 plus 9 would give you 15, and then square root 11 again just stays. So there is your simplified answer. Same thing holds true with subtraction. Sometimes you won't have a number in front, like this one right here, there's nothing there. But really there is, it's just an invisible one. So what you're going to do is take, again, those numbers out front. So 1 minus 5, and then we're dealing with like radicands, so this is just going to stay the square root of 3. 1 minus 5 is negative 4, so your answer then is negative 4 square root of 3. The last example I'm going to give you is actually one where you don't have like radicals. So here, let's do 5 square root of 3 minus the square root of 12. We don't have like terms here, or like radicands. So what you have to do is find something that's going to become a like radicand. So this 5 square root of 3 is going to stay, but I can break apart this into the square root of 4 and the square root of 3. And using the square root of 3 is going to be helpful because then I have a like radicand. So I'm going to subtract square root of 4 times the square root of 3. And I know the square root of 4 is 2, so that's going to change into a 2. So now I have 5 square root of 3 minus 2 square root of 3. And then this becomes really easy. 5 minus 2 is 3, and then the square root of 3 stays the same. So your answer, then, final answer is this 3 square root of 3. Here is your turn on this little mini concept. So go ahead, show your work, and then check in with me once you're done. Pause the video, and then check your answer. Alright, you should have gotten an answer of 7 minus 8, which is negative 1, square root of 2. And actually you can, you might see it written like this as well. That would be the simplified version, but either is acceptable. Alright, next question. How do I simplify using multiplication? I'm going to give you 2 examples, quick, and then we'll go from there. Multiplication is pretty straightforward, same rules as with regular numbers. So here I have square root of 10 times, and then in parentheses, the square root of 6 plus 3. You're going to just distribute, just like you normally would if it was any other type of situation. So this is going to distribute out here and out here. So I'm going to end up with the square root of 10 times the square root of 6. And then I'm going to have the square root of 10. Oops, I forgot my adding sign in between there. The square root of 10 times 3. And then I'm just going to simplify just like I have in the past. So multiplying rules, we know that makes this the square root of 60 plus, and then 3 square root of 10. And you want to simplify that down if you can. And in this case, we can because we can simplify the square root of 60. square root of 4, square root of 15, and then plus 3, and then square root of 10 we know doesn't do anything, so this becomes 2, so I now have 2 square root of 15 plus 3 square root of 10, and that is going to be my final answer right there. Next one, we have square root of 6 minus square root of 2 times the square root of 3, and then square root of 6 plus square root of 3. You're going to use either the box method, FOIL method, whichever is your choice. I like box better than FOIL. So square root of 6, and I'm going to just fill this in, and square root of 3. Square root of 6 times the square root of 6 is going to give me the square root of 36. This is going to give me the square root of 18. This will give me negative 2 times the square root of 18. And this will give me negative 2 square root of 9. And then you can simplify that down a little bit. I'll rewrite it though, so it'll probably be easier to see. So square root of 36 plus square root of 18 minus 2 square root of 18 minus 2 square root of 9 is what I came up with. And then you'll want to combine what you can. And this will be 6. I can combine these together. Remember there's an invisible 1 there, which will give me negative 1, which I don't have to write. But you can. Minus the square root of 18, and then minus 2, and then times the square root of 9, which is 3. So that's the next step, and then I can simplify this a little bit more because I know that the square root of 18 can get broken down, and I know that this is going to make 6 too. So square root of 9 and square root of 2 make up square root of 18, then I have minus 6 here down at the end. And then I have 6 minus 3 square root of 2 minus 6. And then 6 minus 3 is 3, but then 3 minus 6 is negative 3. So negative 3 square root of 2 is going to be my final answer. A little bit of more vocabulary before we do anything else. Conjugates is our vocabulary. It is the sum and difference of two of the same terms. For example, 7, square root of 7 plus the square root of 3, and square root of 7 minus the square root of 3. So it's exactly the same thing, it's just one's adding, one's subtracting. And then when you multiply the conjugates together, you get a difference of squares, which is pretty cool. And you can do the box method or FOIL method, it doesn't really matter. If you were to do box method, these two boxes are going to end up canceling out, which is why you have the square root of 7 squared and then the square root of 3 squared. So obviously then you end up with 7 minus 3, and then that equals 4. So the product of conjugates actually does not have any radicals. It will end up being a number. Alright, how do you simplify using division? In other words, when there's fractions involved. So here's our problem. 10 over the square root of 7 minus the square root of 2. So the first thing you want to do is multiply by the conjugate. So I'm going to multiply by the square root of 7 plus the square root of 2. And I'm going to do that in both the numerator and the denominator. And then we can multiply everything. So in this case, we'll multiply and end up with 10, and then the square root of 7 plus the square root of 2 in the numerator. Denominator, I'm going to end up with 7 minus 2, because the square root of 7 times the square root of 7 is 49, and then square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is 4, square root of 4 is 2, so that's how you get it. And then you have your difference of square roots, so that's why it is subtracting instead of adding. So now I can simplify a little bit further even. So I can keep the numerator for now and just focus on the denominator. 7 minus 2 is 5. And then I can simplify even further because 10 divided by 5 is 2. So you don't necessarily want to distribute that numerator right away because you can do some simplification first. So 2, and then I have the square root of 7 plus the square root of 2, and nothing's left there in the denominator. So now I can simplify this by distributing, and so this will become 2 times the square root of 7 plus 2 times the square root of 2, and that is going to be my final answer. All right, here is your turn. Go ahead and complete this. Make sure you show your work and then check in with me when you think you have your answer. All right, you should have gotten 2 square root of 3 plus 5 square root of 2. This is the end of your video. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day.